welcome to episode 1 of CAD Specs Tech Talk. I'm here with Wayne, and today we're going to be discussing Inventor versus Fusion 360. So Wayne, for the good people sat at home that may not know what Fusion 360 or Inventor is, or indeed what Autodesk is, what are they?
Right, well, let's start with the big question.
Sure.
What is Autodesk, or who is Autodesk, should we say?
Yep.
So Autodesk are a software provider for several tools across architecture, design and manufacturing, as well as media and entertainment, believe it or not. But obviously what we're talking about today is mostly on the manufacturing and design side, which is Fusion 360
Correct.
or Inventor. Now, when we're looking at both of these tools, they're both what we call a parametric modeling tool that allows you to create 3D models and engineering drawings and that sort of thing that you would expect to see in an engineering company. But both of them, when you read their tins, they're both very similar.
They are.
You know, you'd look at the one and you'd say, well, why am I purchasing this one or the other one? And there's going to be some very fundamental key differences between the two that I think we can talk about today. What is the key differences that you would say is between Fusion 360 and Inventor?
I would probably say the main difference is the kind of the install,
Right.
and how it actually sits on the machine or
Yeah.
in the cloud, actually, in Fusion's case. So Fusion 360, Inventor, like I say, very, very similar modeling packages, but Fusion 360 is a cloud-based CAD/CAM platform. So although there's a local install of it on your machine, most of it's kind of done in the cloud. All your data's saved in the cloud. You know, you can save the stuff locally if you want to, but it's primarily cloud-based. You can render on the cloud, you can run simulations on the cloud, whilst as Inventor, with more kind of, I would argue, a mechanical design bias, is more of a local install on a machine. It's more of a traditional kind of setup, really, to be honest. I think that's the main difference between the two. What would you say is good about Fusion in terms of its capability over Inventor? Well, that's a good place to start.
So in terms of the abilities of Fusion versus Inventor, is I'd say primarily from my personal experience, is the CAM functionality that you get within Fusion is very strong.
Yeah.
Whereas Inventor, yes, there is Inventor CAM and it does have CAM capabilities, but I would argue Fusion 360's CAM functionality is more advanced. It's stronger than Inventor's.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, even if you are using Inventor as a design tool, you can still push your designs to Fusion for CAM programming.
Yeah, and vice versa, you know. And I think that's a key point that you're making, that I think Autodesk realises this as well, and you now get Fusion 360 with PowerShape, Fusion 360 with PowerMill. You know, it's kind of a bolt-on and added on to all CAM licenses as an included product now. And I think, again, that's due to Autodesk realising that the development they've put into the CAM side of Fusion is really quite strong.
Absolutely.
And, you know, in some cases, dependent on the application, actually negates the need for those more powerful products like PowerShape Power. Again, really does depend on what you're doing.
Yeah.
And, you know, you've always got to
I would say that
figure out.
the gap between sort of Fusion 360 and what PowerMill PowerShape was capable of is narrowing. However, there is still place for PowerMill and PowerShape in industry, depending on what you're doing.
Yeah.
But because of the rapid development of Fusion 360, it is becoming more and more capable in industry, I would say, as a core product on its own.
Absolutely.
On its own right.
Absolutely. And I think just coming back to Inventor-wise, you know, on the modelling side, I'd say the two are pretty identical.
More or less.
You can make any kind of geometry in any of the products, really. You know, there's not really anything in it now between that other than, you know, there's slightly different workflow in Inventor to Fusion to doing some tasks, but they're pretty unified. Modelling wise, it's not really worth comparing them at that level.
The only place where I would say that Inventor is stronger, however, is when you're working with assembly models.
Correct.
So Fusion 360 and Inventor, if I was modelling an individual part, say something like, I don't know, my coffee mug here, Fusion and 360 and Inventor, side by side,
nothing in it.
There's nothing in it. Absolutely identical. But from experience, when I start working with something that's a bit more of a complicated assembly, while Fusion 360 does have the functionality and capabilities to deal with it, Inventor just tends to be a little bit stronger in it and doesn't tend to fall over as many times as Fusion 360 might.
Yeah, I think, you know, when you are talking about large-scale assemblies, you know, if you've got a really large, complex piece of machinery with lots of, you know, you might have tube and pipe runs in there, you might have electrical parts, lots of content center pieces in there that you've got to load in, high levels of detail model, then Fusion is going to struggle processing that on the larger side. Inventor is more suitable for that.
Looking at some of these examples, like something like this, show this to the good viewers down there. This is something that we've 3D printed. If it was my personal experience and I was wanting to model this, I would probably fire up Inventor first before Fusion.
Yeah.
Fusion can model this.
No problem.
It can model this. I just find that Inventor, when you're working with assembly models and constraints and that sort of thing, I would find it easier, personally, to do it in this.
Yeah, and that kind of brings us on to the next topic of the design accelerators that you get within Inventor. So for those that don't know, a design accelerator within Inventor is a package of tools that allow you to do something very, very quickly and more efficiently than the kind of standard modeling practices.
And even Inventor, there's another example we've got here, but if you're looking at things for like tolerance analysis.
Yeah.
Inventor has very strong tolerance analysis tools available in it.
Similar stacker, haven't you? Yeah.
Yes, where you can actually have a look at what is the tolerance stack up and how does individual tolerances affect my cost as well as the overall tolerance of the whole assembly.
Yeah.
But again, this boils down to the same thing, that we're comparing Inventor, which is it's very refined, it's been around for a long time, it typically requires a lot more PC processing power to be able to run, and what we'll do in this video is we'll just drop down in the description some links to the system requirements for Fusion 360 and Inventor. Do change all the time, so you're going to want to check those out. But when I'm looking at Inventor, I'm looking at a tool that's been around a long time. It's able to do large assemblies. It requires a bit more processing power. Whereas Fusion 360 is a lot newer. It has a lot of functionality that Inventor has as well. However, when I'm looking at things like large assemblies or things that using a design accelerator and Inventor would make the design work a lot simpler and faster, Fusion 360 isn't quite as strong as Inventor in those subjects.
Yeah.
However, Fusion 360 does have some aces up its own sleeves.
Absolutely.
So Fusion 360, do you want to tell them a little bit about the extensions that you get with Fusion 360?
Yeah, so this is what I do like about Fusion 360, the fact that you can customize your standard, very accessible, very affordable license with additional add-ons depending on the work you do. So for example, there's an additive manufacturing extension that you can do like lattice structures and things like that, which you would really struggle to do in Inventor off the bat.
Right.
Or you've got the generative design add-on, so you can bolt that onto Fusion, and then you can start growing parts organically and putting in all your requirements, and then Fusion will take those requirements and the manufacturing methods you want to apply. In the cloud, it'll churn out up to over 1,000 iterations of what that part could be.
So I could do that while I'm getting a cup of coffee.
Absolutely, yeah. Obviously you have to use your Autodesk Cloud credits to do that, but again, it's a very affordable and very unique kind of USP to Fusion. The good thing is, with both these softwares, they're very interoperable. You can bring models from one to the other, and I think that's what a lot of our customers tend to do, particularly if they opt to purchase a product design and manufacturing collection, which includes a standalone Inventor license and Fusion and 3ds Max, amongst many other products, including AutoCAD.
Yeah.
It's very easy to move models in and out of them, and I think both of these products are actually quite strong in that kind of subject, in the fact that you can bring in a lot of non-native CAD data. You might have a supplier that works with a different non-Autodesk CAD software and you need to bring in their models to reference. You can very easily do that. The translation and processing, particularly in Inventor, is I would say best in class, to be honest. In that.
Absolutely, and this is touching on Autodesk's any CAD system, isn't it?
Yeah.
It applies to both Fusion and Inventor. You can bring in file formats, predominantly on Inventor. Inventor's the stronger one of the two, I would argue. Because you're not obviously working with a cloud format, but you can bring models from, like you say, a third-party manufacturer into your own model, which is really useful. Let's put it that way.
So, and going back to like the design accelerators, like I say, Inventor kind of comes with this all in the box, refined, ready to go. It's not to say that you can't do that in Fusion either, because obviously there is the Autodesk App Store. Yeah. So there's apps that Autodesk have developed and also the third parties have developed where you know, you could technically, you know, if all you did was spur gear design and you needed someone to do that and you needed Fusion to do it, there is an app out there that will allow you to do that. But then, of course, you are then relying on third-party apps. You don't know how well they're going to be supported. You know, when the new releases of Fusion come out, you don't know how well it's going to interact with that. So there is I would say there's a slight element with risk there.
And I think this is down. I think that's down to the fact that it's so rapidly developing.
Yeah.
You know, if you're talking about a product like, let's talk about Inventor. It's been around in the market for 20 odd years.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that, but it's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's going through a process of, let's say, refinement.
Yeah.
You know, it's very stable. It's like we've touched on it. It's been used for a very long time. Whereas Fusion it's not brand new in the market. It's been around a little while.
Yeah.
It's been around a while, but it's rapidly developing. And I think that rapid development comes with some pros and some cons.
Yeah.
You know, the pros are that those, when they do these rapid developments, you're going to get these new tools faster before anyone else.
Yeah.
And often they're released as sort of for beta testing to general use of Fusion 360. That I would say is a plus.
Yeah.
A negative side of that is that obviously with a rapidly developing piece of software, there's obviously inherent problems that you might get every now and again. There may be a bug here or there, but generally speaking, Autodesk do fix them quite quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree there that, with Inventor, you get the release every year on subscription, but with Fusion, you're technically getting a new product every 10 weeks.
It's every couple of months.
So there is that. I think one thing that traditionally people have kind of shied away from Fusion in the past was probably the drawing environment, because I'll be honest with you, when that first came out in Fusion, it was quite poor, to be honest, the technical drawing environment. Having said that, the team that's now in place, and has been in place for a couple of years now on the Fusion side, to develop that product and improve the kind of functionality of the technical drawing environment, it has massively improved.
It's a lot more user-friendly now.
It's a lot more user-friendly. You can actually do stuff that you need to do.
I think that's why a lot of makers tend to lean towards Fusion as well, because the process of getting skilled on the piece of software is the ramp-up time's shorter, let's say, because there's not as many tools as there is, say, maybe in Inventor, like from the standard products. So you can pick up Fusion a bit faster, is what I would say, which is why sort of some makers I find would probably tend to use it.
I'd say there's more of an online community with Fusion as well.
And I think that stems from that same maker community as well. Whereas Inventor, I think, and this is a point that we can talk about, is what sort of companies would tend to use Inventor versus Fusion. So, I mean, if you were looking at Fusion 360 and you were looking at which companies tend to use it, what sort of size of industry would you be looking at? Yeah,
there's a lot of factors. I mean, obviously there's cost, there's number of licenses that you're going to need, the types of work that you're going to do. Do you need to be able to do really complex FEA studies? Are you creating products with lots of integrated electronics and pipe work, or do you need to be able to create structural frameworks very quickly? Are you managing large scale assemblies, or are you kind of doing more free-form modeling, smaller models, not as many parts? Do you need do you need to be able to create PCBs, because you can now do that in Fusion
using
with Eagle?
Fusion Eagle,
It's a very hard question to answer. There isn't really a right or wrong, you should use this, you should use that. Just in certain applications, I would kind of guide people down the Fusion route versus the Inventor route. If you were a startup and you wanted something that was out the box, going to give you the capability to model and create and design your products for a small design team, I'd probably say go down the Fusion route. That's probably the good place to start. If you're kind of a more seasoned engineering business where you've got integrated like PDM systems, or you're needing that really high-end design tool functionality, I'd say Inventor's probably the better tool. But that's not saying that Fusion 360 wouldn't be able to do what the guy on Inventor's doing. It's the similarities between the two are
I think that's probably why we get so many questions about it. It's because they're so similar, isn't it? I mean, we've got two products that on the face of it do exactly the same thing, but you've really got to have a good look at what are those core functions that you need between the two, and also what is important to yourself, such as is a local install important to me, or
Yeah.
do I want to be working in the cloud?
Yeah, and that's a big question for customers that are involved in defence. Some
Absolutely.
aerospace customers, they don't at the moment. Most of them are pretty adverse to cloud,
Yeah.
which I can understand. And I think in time that will change as cloud becomes more widely adopted. But for the most part,
They want to keep it as secure
they
as
want to
possible.
keep everything absolutely locked down.
Big bank vault safe.
No internet, nothing at all. No one's getting it. So in that, in an instance like that, well, Inventor makes perfect sense.
Absolutely.
Really.
Even
in terms as well of configurable products, Inventor's going to be way stronger than
using
Fusion.
iLogics as well.
Yeah, although both are parametric. The whole point of iLogic is, I make this product and I've got a range of those that are similar to it. I want this to change, I want the length of this to change as the material changes automatically. I might want, 5 holes on this piece of steel when it gets to a certain length. The kind of scope and what you can do with iLogic is just immense, and it's a great monetizer as well for the company that's utilising that functionality. Because
you can really reduce your time to quotation with it. That's
absolutely,
the thing.
yeah. You can use, iLogic forms to, spec out exactly, how you want that product to be. You haven't got to physically model everything because all the code and everything is just kind of there already.
Sales team could then input into an iLogic form that this is the size, length, and width, and some of the core functionality that you may need.
Yeah. That's a really strong point, I think, when it comes to Inventor and Fusion, that you just don't get that with Fusion at the moment.
Yeah.
Inventor's far superior to that, and as well, you can, if you want to, write apps for Inventor. Or get someone to write apps for you.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug.
Talk to CAD spec.
Shameless plug. Talk to CAD spec. We've got some fantastic development engineers on that side. But yeah, that's all very possible with Inventor. There's
I mean, touching on the iLogic side of thing, if we're talking about a sales team being able to input that kind of data, if you've got an inquiry coming in and all the stuff that you do in your business is bespoke.
Yeah.
When you say bespoke's always a very big word, but it can mean that you just have a configurable product.
Yeah.
If you've got a sales team that can output a quote from a design within half an hour or 20 minutes and not even have to involve engineering, that could really increase the monetary your income within the business, because you're just going to get more quotes out. It's going to result in you winning more jobs. Whereas if you're talking about Fusion 360, you wouldn't have that capabilities, and then what would ultimately end up happening is the sales team would be constantly asking design to reproduce those drawings.
I'd say one thing that Fusion does shine on though as well over Inventor is, and subject to debate, personal opinion, I would argue that the rendering and simulation environments to some degree are better than Inventor, only because you can, if you want to, run those simulations and run those renders on the cloud. So, traditionally, you're an Inventor, you're doing a render of an animation or a still image or whatever. While that's churning away, you've pretty much got to step back and leave your machine. It's usually something people do at the end of the day. They just go, all right, hit render, R4.
I'll come in the morning.
Fingers crossed, Hail Mary, it's there when we come back. With Fusion, you can send your render or your study direct to the cloud, and it'll just ping back to you.
You can let that go render off, and you can either go do something else or make yourself a cup of coffee.
Something we haven't covered yet that I know is on my list that I like to talk about a lot, especially if you see me on the YouTube channel, which is the data management side.
You're a Vault man at the end of the day, aren't
Vault
you?
man through and through. But out the box, what I will say, Fusion with the cloud setup. With the Fusion kind of team integration that Autodesk added a few years ago, out the box, you stick Fusion out, you can really easily create teams of users that can work remotely, and you've already got that online kind of cloud area to pull designs off, and you can look at version history a little bit, and you can see comments that people have written.
Is this using Fusion Manage?
Fusion. Well, the Fusion teams that you get with it, Manage is an additional extension to it. Again, it's where things get complicated. So
this is
these
all
develop
the
it
bits,
further.
Aren't they?
That's quite nice just to have that out of the box, and you don't need any training or any specialist servers or anything to run that. Like I say, it's all cloud-based, so you can if you had a team of 5 people, you can already have 5 people working on the same designs and things like that. However, it is not a data management solution.
No.
Okay, so the other thing about, obviously, 360 versus Inventor, elephant in the room, people always come to it, they're like, the price. What's
I think that's what generally people always ask first.
What's the deal here?
How much?
One's here. Why is that? If they're both the same, if they're both similar, why the big difference?
Yeah, I think so. And I think the way I like to look at it is that Inventor has, as we have alluded to, it has a lot of functionality within the base product itself, with stuff like the design accelerators we've spoken about, iLogic,
Volt,
Nastran. Well, Nastran's part of the PDM collection.
True.
But you do get FEA capabilities within Inventor on its own.
Yeah.
So you've got a lot of core functionality within Inventor that probably results in a slightly higher price bracket. It's always that you get what you pay for. You know, you're buying a product that's I would say a complete engineering tool. And
cradle to grave.
Yeah, it will give you absolutely everything you need within limits, and that's when you would start needing some other bits of software. But when you look at Fusion 360, the core product, when we're looking at the core product, it's a lot cheaper than Inventor, right? Massively cheaper. However, out the box, it doesn't have maybe as many functionalities as Inventor does. So okay, on a 3D modeling basis, it can produce all the 3D models that Inventor can do, as long as they're not like big assemblies that you'd be doing in Inventor. You can produce engineering drawings as well. But if you want to start looking at, if you want FEA capabilities, simulation, or if you wanted more extensive CAM capabilities, that sort of thing, you're going to start looking at purchasing the extensions at the end of the day. And then when you start looking at purchasing those extensions, those products on a pricing value,
very similar,
they start to come. The gap narrows quite a lot. Initially, when you're looking at it and you do a quick Google, you're just going to be presented with price, and you're going to think, well, why? That's why. Is that Fusion 360? And I'd say, this is kind of, for me, it's a double-edged sword. It's a bugbear. It annoys me, but then I can also see the reasoning behind it. As an engineer myself, I like to be, here's a tool. It's got everything you need in it.
Off you go. You don't need to worry.
No, and you're done. Right? Whereas Fusion 360, when I use that product, it's okay, it's really, really good. And then I get to a point, I want to be able to do this.
Yeah, I want to be able to do,
And I just can't, because now I need to purchase an extension. However, looking at the positive side of that from a business point of view, and not so much, so taking it back from a user and looking at a business point of view, it means as a business, I can purchase the tools that my team needs.
So it's just then, here's a package of everything, and I only need this bit.
Exactly. So, and I think that's what accounts for the price difference. I mean, also with Fusion 360, there's obviously a little bit more about this, but you do get your own grouping of software that they call personas, depending on what type of job you're doing. And again, the price point of those versus Inventor or a product design and manufacturing collection is again a lot closer. So I think you're looking at, let's call Fusion 360, it's almost like a starter set. And then you sort of add a bit, and add a bit, and add a bit, depending on what you're needing, and then it will bridge that gap a bit.
But again, absolutely ideal for small startup companies with limited budgets. With a limited budget, you can get something that's pretty punchy, in design and manufacturing terms, and put out some really good work. And then, if you really needed to scale, you could always move to Inventor if you wanted
at a later date,
or add the extensions, or if you want. I would argue if you wanted the best value for money as a complete design engineering solution, then Autodesk Product Design and Manufacturing Collection.
I've done a video on that.
He's done a video on that.
We'll drop that in the description below as well, or up here or somewhere, but we'll put it somewhere.
The value that you get from that, even if you just use 2 of those products, you're getting the money back instantly. So,
absolutely. I mean,
in that respect, it's very cost effective. When you look at what else is on the market and how much more you would have to spend to get those kind of capabilities in that package, it's not even worth thinking about, really.
And with the collection, you get Fusion and Inventor.
Correct. And AutoCAD.
And AutoCAD.
With all the included specialised tool sets.
But there is a video on that, so we won't talk too much.
No, we won't talk about that. But I think, elephant in the room, put it this way, there's a reason there's a price difference.
There is a reason,
you know?
and if you start adding on the additional tools that you may or may not need in your business, then the prices start to become comparable, and then we're starting to assess, well, okay, is it because of cloud or is it because of local install? You know, are you working with Revit or are you not? That's when those questions start to become a bit more important. I think elephant in the room, you can compare them on price, but I think you've got to look more at the tools that both of them give you and why you would use one tool over the other. For example, Inventor having interoperability with Revit, design accelerators, iLogics, or do you want to be working in the cloud with a tool that's advancing so rapidly that you're probably going to get tools way before the rest of your competitors do? Then you may be looking at Fusion 360.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's just kind of like round things up a bit. So what's like your top 5 things about Fusion, and I'll try and give top 5 things about Inventor that are a bit different.
Right, okay.
Sorry to put you on the spot here.
Oh, no, right, okay. So Fusion 360, I mean, the top 5 things for me is definitely the design environment within Fusion 360. You know, it's really user-friendly. You know, I'm a bit of a 3D print enthusiast myself, and when I was presented with that for the very first time, I was a bit like, you know what, it wasn't too difficult for me to learn. Went on a short training course. Shameless plug, talk to CAD spec. But it was, the ramp up time is a lot lower, and I do like that about it.
Cool.
Second, and this is my double-edged sword one, I alluded to earlier, is the fact that yes, you get the differences, you get the different extensions within the software package. And like I say, I prefer to have the whole design tool, but that's because I'm an engineer and I like a lot of toys. But at the end of the day, it makes a lot of sense if I'm an engineering business. You know, the fact that I can sort of configure my CAD to my requirements rather than just having absolutely everything. So I would say it's a benefit in my case. The CAM work environment that is now in Fusion 360 is immensely powerful.
Very strong.
It's very strong, and I absolutely love it. And whenever I talk to companies these days, it's always, if you're looking at CAM, you need to be looking at Fusion 360. That's the way I would always almost always advise.
Anything 3+2, pretty much ideal. Even turning's pretty good. You know,
and with an extension, you start getting a couple of other additional tools.
You can start getting to the 5-axis realm,
and some 4-axis stuff as well.
If you're talking complex stuff, you're still going to need the power shapes, your power mills, but it's got its place.
Absolutely. And then obviously, I would say in terms of the tools that are available in the wider industry, Fusion 360 is a very affordable option. You know, so in addition to being a configurable option, it's also affordable. So as a startup company, it provides me with a product that I can actually grow with my business. So as I need more bits, the product can grow at an affordable rate instead of me having to fork out a lot of money from the get-go. I can actually grow with it. And it can grow with me.
It's scalable.
That's the word. It's a scalable product at the end of the day. And then I would say the final point for myself is the rapid development of Fusion 360 and how much time and effort and money is going in from Autodesk into Fusion 360.
It's very impressive.
It's very impressive. You know, the fact that a new version comes out every 10 weeks. I'm a bit of a nerd at the end of the day, so I love to look at all my new little toys that I get inside of Fusion 360 with the new release. Have a play with it, and see what tools they've allowed for me to use as a Fusion 360 user that I get to beta test. One that they did at one point, for example, was it's now in an extension, but allowed me to play with it and make if I was a business, make a decision if this is something that I would want in my business later on, was the nesting functionality within Fusion. So I would say from my personal point of view, those would definitely be 5 pluses for me on Fusion 360. And so I'm going to put you on the spot now. Give me 5 for Inventor.
So it's quite hard to pick 5, really. I think off the bat, I'm going to say the design accelerators because they just save so much time. You know, you've got accelerators for...
I wish you gave me the Inventor question because that would have been my first one.
You can create shafts, gears, bearings, O-rings. There's just structural steel type things, just saves so much time. Easy to configure, easy to change. You can add your own content to those libraries as well. You know, if you have a good gear or a specific piece of
the content center library, isn't it?
Yeah, if you've got a custom like extrusion or a piece of steelwork that you use, you can create your own and publish it to your libraries and start to use those in the accelerator as well. So that's a number one for me. Number two, I would say superior technical drawing detailing compared to Fusion. You know, I'm not saying the Fusions is bad, because it is not bad.
No,
It is not perfect, but it's not.
It's not, and
you know,
I mean, for the price you pay for it, I mean, you know,
it's bloody good.
It's bloody good. It's bloody good. So
and it's getting better, I must say. But you know, off the bat, out the box, Inventor's got the edge, I would say, on that. And
it's been around a long time.
And you know, I know everyone's massively into 3D, digital, you know, VR in some instances. Technical 2D drawings still play a really important role in a lot of manufacturing companies. So that's why I'm putting that in my top 5 as well. AnyCAD is going in there just because it is absolutely ideal if you can just bring in pretty much anything from anywhere, work with it, and start collaborating with other stakeholders, other businesses, other companies on your projects. It makes life a whole lot easier. Number 4, I'm going for the data management. Of course I am.
Yeah, that's just bias.
That's just bias. But yeah, I just love the fact that, you know, from the initial base license, you get Vault Basic, and it's very easy to scale that and go up to Pro if you needed to. Because to be honest with you, if you've not got an efficient data management kind of system in place within your design organization, to me, you're not designing properly. You can't know what's the latest stuff and what's going out and who's working on what. You just have no idea. You can be as organised as you want, but people are going to slip up. People are going to go around. So that's on there. Final one, that's tricky. I'm going to go for large scale assembly management. You know, you've got all the assembly simplification tools, or Simplify as it's known now. We didn't even cover that. I think we've covered most stuff, to be honest, for episode 1.
I don't think there's much more that we would want to cover, and I think we'd probably bore people to tears if we keep talking.
I think it's been successful. I think people can clearly see that we get far too excited about Autodesk products and things like that. But, you know, we welcome your own suggestions as well. So, obviously, this was episode 1.
Drop some comments below if you have any questions.
Yeah, this was episode 1. We've done Inventor versus Fusion 360 because we get asked about it a lot. We would love for you guys to ask your own questions. You know, like Wade said, drop them in the comments below. Of course, if you don't want to do that, if you want to speak to us personally, you can do so. Just find the CAD Spec website. You can find the contact details there and speak to us there. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you on episode 2.
And don't forget to like and subscribe to keep up with all of the latest notifications, so that when we drop the next episode 2, you will be notified.
Thanks for watching CAD Spec Tech Talk.
Cheers, guys.